June 4th, 2021. Andrew was sitting on his couch watching the TV and doing a line of cocaine. You know, the usual. His mind is slowly shifting away when he hears a thundering sound coming from the house's door.
Police! Search warrant!
Andrew doesn't know what he should do. The first thing that comes to mind is the stacks of cocaine hidden around the house. He runs from the couch and starts flushing down the stacks down the toilet in desperate move. He isn't thinking clearly. Finally, he hears the front door opening. The police entered his house. He rushes to his bedroom and hides behind the door. I told you his mind wasn't working right. Moments later, he is in handcuffs, listening to the evidence that the police found inside his home. They let him say goodbye to his dog, and as he tries to kiss his fiancée goodbye, she tells him that she doesn't want to see him again. This is the story of one of Australia's biggest YouTubers. Andrew Hamilton's upbringing was a normal one. Happy household, went to school and university, nothing was out of the ordinary. Andrew himself was a normal teenager who started smoking weed, as you do, in middle school. But things took a different turn right at the end of high school.
From about the age of 18, I was experimenting with ecstasy, and then I went to Thailand with a bunch of mates and I tried magic mushrooms for the first time, and I had such an amazing kind of spiritual experience on mushrooms that felt so positive.
Right after he came back from the trip, Andrew told one of his friends how good these mushrooms were and decided to start making them himself. Andrew's problems wasn't just about using. He was a self-titled gambling addict too. And this addiction is one of the factors that shaped his drug ideologies. Andrew doesn't believe the drug laws in his country make any sense. According to him, gambling and drinking are far more evil than drugs. Drugs has a far more positive and less destructive effects. But gambling and drinking are legal, so why is drugs illegal? This helped justify what he was doing in his head. And the selling story started from here. Andrew was a genius. I'll refrain from detailing the things he did in order to explode his business due to YouTube policy, but let's just say he made the mushrooms that he was selling taste a lot better and easier to use without affecting the drug effects of them, and that led to his business growth. In the beginning, it was a friends and family business, something to help cover rent, and at the same time, Andrew was working in public relations. But alongside that, he'd be standing in the middle of the city at midday selling mushrooms to people. Because who's going to think that a drug dealer would sell his stuff in front of everybody? The business scaled a lot, and Andrew started to diversify his materials. He started selling different types of drugs other than mushrooms, which brought in a huge amount of cash, to the point of opening a pizza restaurant in his town as a cover and a way to launder money. But that's when his own drug problems started to arise.
But I was still putting around 10 grand of coke up my nose every week. Like it was just wild. I thought in my head, my game plan was to open 6 or 7 restaurants and then retire. Now, looking back, I think that was a pipe dream. I think the greed would have stopped me from ever really retiring.
But it's hard to retire from crime. And he continued his journey for 15 years until he got arrested. Andrew had high hopes though. He thought he was going to get bail and be on the streets the very next day. But reality hit him hard. The next day he was in a prison bus going to jail. And thus starts the next chapter in Andrew's life. Although he didn't spend a lot of time in prison, it was unbearable to him, with some instances of violence around him that kept him afraid for his life. But all of that was nothing compared to the phone call he got one day.
I had a call with my fiancée and she told me that she was leaving me and that she'd rehomed my dogs. And I think that kicked the shit out of me a bit because, you're powerless in there.
But Luckily, his gambling addiction paid off in some sort of way.
And it's funny, on the first day in the yard at Long Bay Jail, this bloke came up to me and he's like, "Mate, I fucking know you." And I didn't want to be mistaken for someone else in there, so I'm like, "No, mate, you don't know me." And he's like, "I fucking know you, mate." And he's like, you used to gamble on the pokies at the Columbian in Surrey Hills, and whenever you won money, you used to buy me and my missus drinks. And so this guy ended up being like very well connected in the yard at Long Bay Jail. The next thing you know, I had a sandwich press and a kettle and was like vouched for, and like that just made my time at Long Bay so much better. Everyone was fucking super nice to me.
Luke really was at his side after only 4 months of prison, as his biggest charge was dropped off due to the stashes they got in evidence were tested and came back negative, meaning they weren't actually drugs. So a judge agreed to getting him out of jail and that he spends the rest of his time in house arrest. He even got a Tinder date, with his mom and dad present in it.
I even managed to go on a date while I was still on house arrest, which was pretty funny. I'd explained to this girl my situation and that I was like on bail from prison and that I had to bring my parents on the date, and weirdly that was not a deal breaker.
After a period of uncertainty of what Andrew wanted to do with his life, he saw an ad in the Journal for a comedy club hosting a stand-up comedy competition, and he decided to sign up. That was the moment that turned his life around. And as it turns out, he had the talent for it. He started doing more shows, and his audience became bigger and bigger. After about a year of his arrest, the final sentence came in. He had to do 200 hours of community service, and then he'd be a free man. He continued doing comedy shows until an opportunity presented itself to him. He got an offer to be on a YouTube channel called Yeah Mad. If you want to find out what happened with his life after that, go watch this video, or this video. Thanks for watching.